city of New York shimmered under the soft glow of winter streetlights, blanketed in freshly fallen snow. Despite the cold outside, the grand ballroom of Ashford Manor was a world of warmth and extravagance. Crystal chandeliers cast dazzling reflections across the high ceilings, and the air buzzed with the sound of clinking champagne glasses and quiet negotiations between the most powerful figures in the tech industry. Alexander Carter, a self-made billionaire and the CEO of Carter AI Innovations, entered the room with the confidence of a man who had spent years at the top. Dressed in a tailored black tuxedo, he was a vision of success. Sharp, composed, untouchable. Conversations momentarily paused as eyes turned toward him. Alexander was not only a leader in artificial intelligence, but also one of the most sought-after names in business. He was used to this attention. He had learned to ignore it, treating admiration and envy as an unavoidable side effect of his ambition. But what he didn't expect tonight was a pair of wide, stunned eyes watching him from across the room. Sophia Brooks, the catering manager for the event, gripped the tray of champagne flutes in her ice-cold hands. Alexander, the man she had loved, the man she had lost, and the man who had no idea that somewhere in this very building, his 4-year-old son was waiting for him. Her breath hitched. Panic surged through her veins. He couldn't see her. He couldn't recognize her. Before Alexander's gaze could settle on her for a second too long, she turned away, disappearing into the crowd. But deep down she knew this night was only beginning, and fate had a cruel way of forcing the past back into the present. 5 years ago, in a small cafe in Boston, Sophia Brooks was still a young, dreamy college student. She worked part-time after classes, serving coffee to a mix of regular customers, mostly young entrepreneurs trying to squeeze in work between meetings. It was there that she met Alexander Carter for the first time. That day, he walked into the cafe, the cold winter air clinging to his suit. Unlike most customers bundled up in thick coats, he wore only a simple blazer, exuding an effortless confidence. He moved straight to the counter and ordered a black coffee. But what caught Sophia's attention wasn't his sharp features or his tailored clothes. It was his eyes, a piercing blue, filled with a relentless ambition that burned like an untamed fire. When he looked up, their eyes met. It was only a second, but it felt like time had frozen. "Do you believe in destiny?" he asked, his voice deep and steady. Sophia chuckled, unsure if it was a serious question or just a line. "If it gets you a discount on your coffee, then maybe I do." Alexander smirked. Just a small, fleeting smile, but one that softened his otherwise serious demeanor. And just like that, everything began. They started dating, but not like most couples did. Alexander wasn't the type to go for long walks in the park or spend lazy afternoons watching movies. His life revolved around numbers, projections, and the vision of building his own tech empire. Many nights, Sophia sat curled up in a worn-out chair in his tiny apartment, quietly watching him flip through financial reports, sketching out investment plans on an old whiteboard. She didn't fully understand his world, but she loved the way he saw life, with hunger, with determination, even when she sometimes felt like nothing more than a shadow beside his towering ambitions. She believed that, in his own way, he loved her too. But maybe she had been wrong. One day, Alexander received the biggest opportunity of his career, a major investment deal in Silicon Valley, a once-in-a-lifetime chance to make his dream a reality. The night before he left, Sophia asked softly, "Do you have to go?" Alexander turned to her, his blue eyes gleaming with certainty. "You know this is my dream. I've been waiting for this chance my entire life." She fell silent. She knew he wouldn't change his mind. But what hurt the most wasn't that he was leaving, it was that he never even asked if she wanted to go with him. And the next morning, Alexander left, taking her heart with him. 2 weeks after Alexander left, Sophia found out she was pregnant. She stood frozen in her tiny bathroom, staring at the 2 red lines on the pregnancy test. Her hands trembled so badly, she nearly dropped it. "No, this can't be," she whispered, but the truth was staring right back at her. Panic crashed over her like a tidal wave. She tried calling Alexander. His number was disconnected. She sent emails, but they disappeared into silence. She searched for news about him, only to be met with headlines celebrating the success of Carter AI innovations. Alexander Carter had moved on to a world where she no longer existed. Sophia had no idea what to do. She was only 21, still in college. She had no wealthy family, no stable career. A baby? She had never imagined raising one alone. But in the end, she refused to run from it. She dropped out of college, found a stable job, and saved every penny she could to prepare for the arrival of her child. On a freezing winter night, Noah Carter was born in a modest hospital, and when Sophia looked into her newborn son's face, she saw something undeniable. Noah had Alexander's eyes. The years that followed were grueling. Sophia worked endless shifts, waiting tables, cashiering, even cleaning hotel rooms, just to afford diapers and formula. But no matter how difficult it got, she never regretted her decision. Noah was the reason she kept going, and she thought that as long as she kept this secret, she and her son would remain safe. She was wrong. Inside the dazzling grand hall of Ashford Manor, champagne glasses clinked, laughter echoed, and conversations flowed effortlessly. But for Sophia Brooks, the world was falling apart. She had just heard something that made the blood in her veins run cold. "Where's Noah?" her coworker's panicked voice snapped her out of her daze. Sophia froze. "He's in the staff lounge," she replied instantly. But an eerie chill crept down her spine. Her coworker shook her head, eyes filled with worry. "He's not there anymore." Her heart stopped. She couldn't breathe. No, this couldn't be happening. Meanwhile, in another corner of the estate, Noah Carter, his bright blue eyes wide with curiosity, wandered across the grand marble floors. The world outside the staff lounge was so much bigger, so much more exciting. The golden lights, the well-dressed guests, the delicious-looking food. He wanted to see it all. Step by step, his tiny shoes tapped softly against the floor as he moved past a towering pillar. Until bam! Noah bumped into a tall man. Alexander Carter halted instinctively, crouching down to steady the child. But in that moment, the entire world blurred. The boy looked up at him, eyes glowing like rare gemstones under the chandelier's light. A heavy silence stretched between them. Alexander's breath caught. No, it couldn't be. His mind rebelled against the thought, but deep inside, he knew the truth the second he saw him. This child looked terrifyingly like him. Noah tilted his head, blinking innocently. "Who are you, mister?" Alexander didn't answer. He couldn't. But before he could even process what was happening, a frantic voice rang out. "Noah!" Sophia appeared, breathless, her face pale with fear. She rushed forward and scooped Noah into her arms, holding him close as if shielding him from the world. She swallowed hard, forcing steadiness into her trembling voice. "I'm sorry. My son is a little too adventurous." But she couldn't hide the truth. Not from Alexander Carter. He stood frozen, staring at her, or rather, staring at the child he never knew existed. His stormy blue eyes darkened, his voice dropping into a dangerous calm. "Sophia, what the hell is going on?" She held her breath. There was no turning back now. The air in the room grew suffocating. Sophia could feel Alexander's piercing gaze locked onto her, full of questions, full of fury. But before he could demand answers, a smooth, calculated voice cut through the tension. Well, what an interesting evening this has turned out to be." Sophia spun around. Lucas Hale, one of the most ruthless investors in New York, leaned casually against a pillar, an amused smirk playing on his lips. Known for exploiting his rival's weaknesses, Lucas thrived on leverage and power. And tonight, he had just found Alexander Carter's greatest weakness. Taking slow, deliberate steps forward, Lucas let his gaze drift from Sophia to Noah. "Charming little boy. I must say, Alexander, I never expected you to be a father." Alexander's jaw clenched. He barely had time to process the reality of having a son before being thrown into a far more immediate problem. Lucas stepped closer, lowering his voice just enough for only Alexander to hear. "You know, the media loves a good scandal. Imagine tomorrow's headlines. Billionaire Alexander Carter's secret child revealed. Quite the story, don't you think?" Sophia felt ice creeping through her veins. "What do you want?" Alexander's voice was like steel. Lucas chuckled. "Oh, it's quite simple. I have a new tech venture, one that needs a powerful partner. If you sign onto my project, I can guarantee this secret stays buried forever." Sophia turned to Alexander, her eyes pleading. She knew this wasn't just a business deal, it was blackmail. And if Alexander refused, everything would come crashing down. Sophia turned on her heels, intending to walk away. She just wanted to get Noah out of there, away from everyone. But before she could take another step, a hand grabbed her wrist, holding her in place. "No more running." Alexander's voice was low but commanding. She turned around to face him, meeting his piercing blue gaze, the same gaze she had once loved, but now filled with fury and suspicion. "Noah is my son, isn't he?" Sophia froze. She had prepared herself for this moment, but now that it had arrived, words abandoned her. "Alexander, I lie." His voice cut through hers, cold and unrelenting. "That boy has my eyes. Don't try to deny it." Sophia drew in a shaky breath, her eyes shimmering with tears. She knew she couldn't keep hiding the truth. "Yes," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Noah is your son." It hit Alexander like a punch to the chest. He took a step back, as if he needed space to breathe. The world around him, the glittering chandeliers, the soft waltz music drifting from the main hall, the distant chatter of New York's elite, all blurred into nothingness. He had a child, a 4-year-old child, and he had never known. "Why?" His voice was quiet but laced with pain and anger. "Why didn't you tell me?" Sophia bit her lip, tears streaming down her face. "I tried," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I tried to call you, but your number was disconnected. I sent emails, but you never replied. Your company said you had left. I couldn't find you." Alexander went still, memories of those early years in Silicon Valley flashing through his mind, the relentless work hours, the obsession with building his empire. He had been so consumed by success that he had never realized Sophia had been left to endure everything alone. "You could have tried harder," he rasped, his voice heavy with regret. "Instead, you kept him from me." This time, Sophia's gaze burned with anger. "Tried harder? Do you think I wanted this?" she shot back. "I had to raise our child alone. I had to survive on my own while you disappeared without a trace. You have no idea what I went through." Alexander swallowed hard, the weight of her words crashing over him like a tidal wave. He had missed everything. Noah's first smile, his first steps, his first words. "I need to see him," he finally said, his voice softening. "I need to meet my son." Sophia hesitated, searching his eyes for any trace of doubt, but all she found was sincerity. For the first time in 4 years, she believed that Alexander wouldn't walk away again. Alexander Carter wouldn't let Lucas Hale win. If Lucas dared to use Noah as leverage, then Alexander would make sure he never got the chance to negotiate again. Leaving the gala immediately, he called Matthew Cole, a close friend and the general manager of the hotel where the event was held. Matthew had been in the industry for years and knew all the hidden dealings of the elite. "I need your help," Alexander said, his voice low and firm. "Say no more," Matthew responded instantly. "I've already heard some troubling things about Lucas Hale from the hotel staff." Matthew arranged a meeting in the hotel's surveillance room. There, he played security footage from hidden cameras, the ones no one knew existed. What Alexander saw made his fists clench. Lucas had been meeting with shady businessmen, exchanging envelopes of cash, signing off the record deals right inside the hotel. In one clip, Lucas whispered to a partner, "Don't worry, I've bribed the auditors. Just sign and your profits will double in months." But that wasn't all. Matthew had also uncovered Lucas's secret financial records, emails detailing transactions to offshore accounts, hiding illicit profits under layers of shell companies. Matthew turned to Alexander, his expression serious. "You have enough to bring him down?" Alexander nodded, but he needed more. He reached out to former business associates of Lucas, people who had been deceived or forced into corrupt deals. At first, they hesitated, but when Alexander revealed that Lucas had begun blackmailing a father using his own child, Their reluctance turned into anger. "I'll help," a veteran businessman declared. "That bastard needs to pay." And that night, Alexander set his plan in motion. That night, Alexander arranged a meeting with Lucas Hale at an exclusive club, one of the places where Lucas often conducted his shady deals. Lucas arrived, smug as ever, still convinced he was in control. "Alexander, I trust you've given my offer some thought," he said smoothly, taking a seat, believing he held all the power. But Alexander didn't sit. Instead, he tossed a thick folder onto the table. Lucas raised an eyebrow and flipped it open, only for his smirk to vanish instantly. Every single piece of evidence exposing his crimes lay before him. Hotel surveillance footage, dirty contracts, offshore transactions, a detailed breakdown of his fraudulent activities. Lucas's hands clenched around the pages, his jaw tightening. "You think this will scare me?" he scoffed, forcing out a laugh. "I have the best lawyers. I have connections you can't even touch." Alexander simply smiled, a cold, knowing smile. "Maybe," he shrugged, "but I didn't send this to your lawyers. I sent it to financial crime investigators and the top journalists in New York." The moment the words left his mouth, the doors swung open. A team of plainclothes officers stormed in, led by a senior detective. "Lucas Hale, you're under arrest for financial fraud and money laundering." Lucas's face drained of all color. He shot up from his chair, trying to flee, but two officers immediately restrained him. "No, you can't do this to me. I have lawyers. I have power," he shouted, thrashing violently. But no one cared. The detective read him his rights, snapped handcuffs onto his wrists, and dragged him toward the door. Alexander stood with his arms crossed, watching as Lucas was escorted out like the pathetic criminal he was. Before being forced out, Lucas turned back, eyes burning with rage. "I'll be back. You think you've won." Alexander only smirked. "Good luck in prison, Lucas." New York erupted with news of Lucas Hale's arrest. From prestigious financial publications to gossip tabloids, every headline screamed, "Lucas Hale arrested for financial fraud, a fallen empire." Alexander Carter, the man who exposed a tech scandal. Rumors of Alexander Carter's secret son, is it true? In the midst of the media storm, Alexander knew he couldn't hide anymore. If anyone was going to tell the truth, it had to be him. That evening, he stepped onto a press conference stage, cameras flashing all around. Hundreds of reporters sat in anticipation, ready to capture every word. He took a deep breath, meeting the gaze of the audience. "I know there are many questions," he began, his voice calm but firm. "And I know the rumors have been spreading." The room was dead silent. He paused for a moment, then spoke the truth. "I have a son." He let the words sink in before continuing. "His name is Noah Carter." The room exploded. Journalists scrambled to write down his words. Cameras flashed like fireworks. Some murmured among themselves, but no one could deny the sincerity in Alexander's voice. "Then people assumed I would hide this. Some even tried to use my son against me, but they were wrong." He scanned the crowd, his gaze unwavering. "I will not let anyone use my son as a pawn in their power games. I will protect Noah at all costs." Behind the stage, Sophia stood frozen. For the first time in 4 years, she didn't see Alexander as a distant businessman. She saw a father fighting for his child. And in that moment, she knew she didn't have to fight alone anymore. The press conference was over, but its impact still echoed across the city. In her small apartment, Sophia Brooks stood by the window, watching the New York streets glow under the twinkling lights. Snow drifted softly, blanketing the roads in white. But this time, her thoughts weren't clouded with fear. Behind her, Alexander Carter stepped in, his gaze soft as he looked at her. "What are you thinking about?" he asked gently. Sophia clenched her hands, keeping her back turned. "I'm scared. You said everything today, but when the dust settles, will you regret it?" Alexander didn't answer immediately. He moved closer, taking her hand in his. "I've already lost too many years, Sophia. I don't want to lose another day." She bit her lip, her heart pounding. "But you could go back to your perfect life without me and Noah." Alexander let out a quiet chuckle, shaking his head. "No, you don't understand. Without you and Noah, none of it means anything." Before Sophia could respond, a small voice broke the silence. "Daddy?" Noah Carter stood in the doorway, holding his favorite stuffed bear, his bright blue eyes wide. He hesitated for a moment, then asked softly, "Will you stay with me?" Alexander knelt down, pulling Noah into his arms. "I'll always be here, son." Sophia brought a trembling hand to her mouth, tears slipping down her cheeks, not from sadness, but from joy. Outside, snow continued to fall, but for the first time in 4 years, Sophia wasn't alone anymore. She didn't have to fight alone. She had a family.